Right, mic test. I've got to do a mic test to ensure that everybody can hear me, and then I'll get started. Right, mic test. All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm so happy that you have chosen to join me again in this new live session to talk about the skill requirements. Right, skill requirements is really what you typically would find on the job description. There would be educational requirement or education requirement, things along the lines of a bachelor's degree required. But what about the skill requirement? A lot of the times people don't get the jobs that they're looking for because they don't meet the skill requirements, right? They don't have the skills that the employers are looking for. How do we make sure that you get the skill that the employer wants you to have? How do we make sure that you have the skill that the employer wants you to have? That's what we're going to talk about today. I want to make sure that everything's running as they're supposed to. And if you give me just 1 second, I'll be sure of that. And we'll start rocking and rolling. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, things are working the way they're supposed to. So let's continue the conversation about the skill requirements, right? How do you ensure that you have the skill that the employer wants you to have? That's what the conversation is going to be about today. All right, I had to do something very important here. That's to remember to hit record. If I don't remember to hit record, then the video editor will not have anything to work with, and they're going to be very upset. All right, the skill requirement is an important topic, right? It is an important topic for those who are looking for a new world, or those who have a dream of using technology as their vehicle for upward mobility. Well, the more skills you have, the better off you are. And as you know, in IT and cybersecurity, it's really all about the skill. It's not really about the paper, about the diploma, or about the people you know. It's really about the skill that you can provide. Why is that true? That is true because when an employer is looking for an employee, they're looking for someone to help them solve a problem that they have. And in return for this person helping them with the problem, they're going to pay this person a significant amount of money. So in the nutshell, you can understand that when you show up for an IT or cybersecurity job, you're essentially telling the employer, hey, I have the solution for your problem, transfer your problems to me, and I'll take your problems, but you've got to transfer a significant amount of money to me as well. So you've got to make sure that the skill that you're providing to the employer is greater, is more valuable to them than the amount of money that you are coming to ask them. Well, how much money can that be? Well, you already know. A very highly skilled network engineer, network security engineer, cybersecurity engineer is someone that gets paid on average $183,000. That's what Manpower Group reported in the last report that they published in January this year. So if you're showing up and you're saying, oh, give me about $180,000 a year, you've got to make sure that the skills are proportional. So how do you make sure that you have these skills? There are two categories of people that I meet in this field. And since I've started this journey of providing IT and cybersecurity professionals with the environment for them to practice hands-on, I've learned that there are two major groups of people that are in the IT space, right? The job seekers tend to be those who are entering the profession for the first time. They're coming from some other profession, and they never worked in IT before. And the second group is the group of the people who have been working in IT for some time. And some time might mean a year, 2 years, 3 years, etc., etc. Now, regardless of how long that you have been working in IT, it is still necessary for you to maintain advanced skills. Why? That's because the skills you have today, they're perishable. If you don't do them, if you don't practice them, you will lose them. In addition to that, the skills you have today will be outdated in a few years. That means new technologies will come out, and the older technology that you used to know will no longer be relevant. So, if you're not updating your skills, very quickly you find yourself in a situation where the skills you have are not the skills that the employers are looking for. So, one way or another, everyone fits in one of those two categories. Either that you are entering the field or that you have been in the field, but regardless of whether you're coming in or you have been around for a while, you still need to maintain advanced skills. How do you do that? Well, you already know that I propose that you get hands-on, up close and personal with the technology that you want to learn. I have developed a whole framework that I have trademarked that's called IT and Cybersecurity Exposure Learning Framework. I've developed the IT and Cybersecurity Exposure Learning Framework, and I've trademarked that to teach IT and cybersecurity professionals how to acquire the skills that they need to meet the skill requirement. Well, folks, I've been talking about this for a little while, but now I have very good news for you. Exactly a month from today, we will start the next cohort of Magna Cyber Academy. But this time, unlike all of the other times that we have done that over the past 3 years, it will be different. And here's what's going to be different about it. Not only are we going to have the traditional Magna Cyber Academy cohort that takes people from entry-level IT skills all the way to mid-level IT and cybersecurity skills. That means anyone who has been working in IT for at least a year, and that's the minimum requirement. For you to be part of that cohort, where you're going to have access to all of these technologies, you must have been working in IT for at least a year. Up until this point, we required at least 6 months of experience, but we have learned that it is better that you have been around for at least a year. It doesn't really matter what you have been doing. You could have been blowing dust off the computers at work, but you have to be working in some type of IT capacity. If you've been doing that for a year, you qualify. Of course, there are other requirements, such as you need to have time. You need to dedicate 3 hours every day, and we're going to monitor that. People who don't meet this requirement, once we discover that they're not keeping up, we reimburse them and we say goodbye. Also, you have to be able to commit to this for 6 months. You cannot just have the time for 1 month. You've got to be able to continue for 6 months, and you've got to be able to afford it as well. Now, assuming that these things are true, you qualify to start the next cohort, which is the traditional Magna Cyber Academy cohort. In this cohort, we will start with network fundamentals. We will learn networking. Then, after networking, we will learn network security. After network security, we will learn system and cloud engineering. And from that point on, we will get to the point where you specialize in one of the 3 things that we offer here: network engineering, network security engineering, and cloud engineering. Really, network engineering / network security, cloud engineering, and cyber defense. Cyber defense, that is, folks, a lot of people think cybersecurity. When you hear cybersecurity, people quickly think about penetration testing. We don't do penetration testing here. We defend networks. Why do we focus on teaching cyber defense or how to defend networks instead of how to offend network or offensive security? That is because we have found that there are way more jobs for people who know how to defend networks than there are for people who are pen testers, right? Typically, you don't see pen testers working in all of the companies in your city, right? A pen tester typically works for a managed cybersecurity company where they go around and penetrate people's network all around the country. So there are way fewer jobs for pen testers than there are for cyber defense people. And even the American government has published reports that suggest that our capabilities, our defensive cyber capabilities, are way behind compared to other countries, yet our offensive security capabilities are way ahead of the curve. So we want to train people to be cyber defenders. So 3 disciplines that you will be able to specialize in: 1, network / network security; 2, cloud engineering; and 3, cyber defense. Well, cyber defense is a part of cybersecurity. There are also other disciplines in cybersecurity. So folks, Understand that. This is good news. We start that exactly 1 month from now. But what's the absolute good news? What's really new about what's going to happen starting next month? Folks, here it is. Up to this point, we haven't been able to take people who are coming fresh into the IT profession in our program. Why? That's because we can teach you advanced stuff, right? And I know how to teach you the advanced skills that I have here. We have, a very huge data center with Cisco, Palo Alto, Fortinet, VMware technology, Microsoft, etc. And Splunk. Oh, fully licensed Splunk, folks. Things that would cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. But although we can teach you these and you would be able to learn them, once you learn them, no employer would give you a job. You see, because you have never worked in IT before. And yet you're showing up and say, hey, I know how to build a network and I have implemented a Palo Alto. No one's going to believe that. How is it that you know how to implement Palo Alto and you've never had a job before? It is not impossible. You can learn it, and I believe you can learn it, and I've seen people do that before. But it's not yourself that you need to convince. It is important that you convince yourself, but it is more important that you're able to convince the employer. So we want you to focus on how do you convince the employer that you're the right person for the job. And so if you have never worked in IT a day in your life, well, learning these advanced skills will not necessarily give you a job. That's why we don't take people who have never worked in IT before, but this is changing. That doesn't mean we're going to start teaching you advanced network, advanced IT and cybersecurity concepts. But what that means, folks, is that we're going to have a subscription for newcomers, people that are switching from one career to IT or cybersecurity. And here's what that means. You're going to pay a small fee every month, and you're going to be part of an ecosystem of people that are chasing the same dream. And we're going to meet every single day, Monday through Thursday. There'll be 2 schedules, one early in the morning, one late in the afternoon. For these people who are starting an IT or cybersecurity career with 0 experience. And if you have followed me for a little while, you already know what my recommendation is. Get a job. You don't need massive amount of certificates. You don't need anything really. You just need to get a job, a basic entry-level IT job. That's what it is, folks. You're coming into the profession fresh. You have never worked a day in your life in IT before. Well, you need to start somewhere. You start at the entry level. But the problem is a lot of people, when they think about IT or cybersecurity jobs, they think about the people who are earning $180,000. And as they're coming into the profession, they're thinking about $180,000. Folks, I don't want to, discourage you, but this is not how it works. You're not going to be given a job where you're earning top dollars on day one. You're going to earn your stripes. And I recommend to you that you start at the entry level, right? Because there, the competition is less fierce. The employers are less demanding when they're looking for an entry-level IT technician, entry-level help desk technician. And what qualifies you now to be an entry-level help desk technician? We're going to show you how to demonstrate that you qualify. First, in our program, in this monthly subscription that you're going to have for entry-level people, you're going to have what's called a skill inventory. That is, we're going to help you inventory the skills that you have acquired all throughout your life. Anyone who has been using a computer for at least a year or so has some entry-level IT skills, because that's what you do as an entry-level person. You turn the computer on. You get the computer to pop up on the screen. You get the USB to work. You get the printer to work. I had a problem with my printer. It was printing it's a color printer, and suddenly it's printing only yellow. Oh, that's a problem. I don't know what the problem is. Well, read the manual, and then eventually I found out that it has something that's called head cleaner or something along those lines. I activated that stuff. It cleaned the head of the printer, and then bam, my printer now prints perfectly well. But that's what you're going to do. You see how I did that for my own printer? Almost anybody can do that. Well, these are the skills that you're going to create an inventory of to put on your resume as an entry-level IT or cybersecurity professional, really an entry-level IT professional. We're going to show you how to do that. And we're going to help you set the right expectation, right? Without the right expectation, you're going to get discouraged. And that's what I've seen over and over. People come and suddenly they're expecting to get paid like a 10-year veteran. It's not going to work that way. We've got to put in some work. And we're going to show you how to put in that work. But more importantly, we're going to help you build the habits that will get you to ultimate success. And what are these habits? You're going to meet with like-minded people. Every day, you're going to focus on learning everything that is in the A+ curriculum. We're not going to teach you because these things are already out there almost for free. But we're going to create the study group where you have to come every day, and you're going to pay a small subscription for that to encourage you to come, right? And then we're going to build your resume. We're going to inventory the skills you have. We're going to prepare you for the interviews. And then within 6 months, you should land your first IT job. Okay, so that's exciting news. And here's one of the biggest news as well, is that we know that a lot of people are not looking for the all-inclusive hands-on training or learning experience. There are people who just want to learn one technology. Cisco, Palo Alto, Fortinet. These are the technologies that companies have been reaching out to us about, and individuals have been reaching out as well, saying, do you have a program to teach Fortinet? Well, now we do. And here's what it is, folks. We're going to have this monthly subscription as well for people who want to learn just Palo Alto or just FortiGate. We're going to start with those two now. When it comes with the Fortinet, it's the whole Fortinet suite. You can choose to enroll in just FortiGate or the whole FortiFabric. That would include FortiGate, FortiSwitch, FortiAP. So you would be able to build a complete network with Fortinet technology in what Fortinet calls the FortiFabric. We will teach you from the ground up how to do that. But you must have IT experience. The only thing that doesn't require IT experience is the entry-level subscription. Folks, enough of that. I'm too excited about those things that are coming. I wanna continue to give you the good news. Starting now, you can go to Magna Cyber Academy and see if you qualify for the all-inclusive cohort that's going to start on April 1st. The others, they will also start on April 1st, but you will be able to register for them starting Monday. Now, folks, how do we teach these things? How do you meet the skill requirement, folks? I want to give you my technique. What do I do? Here's what I do. Instead of focusing, I'm going to share my screen with you here. Instead of focusing on a certificate, and this is probably the most asked question, right? Right, this week I was speaking to someone who was asking me, should I go for certificate or traditional education? That's a no-brainer. If you have the means, go for them. Go for the certificate, go for the traditional education, go for the experience, go for everything. You want to have as many tools as possible in your toolbox, and that's how you're going to win. I have an advanced degree in computer engineering and in cybersecurity. I have a master's degree in those two disciplines. I have a bachelor's degree in computer engineering. I have an associate degree even. That's how I started. And I have a number of certificates from Palo Alto, Cisco, Fortinet, Aruba, and the list goes on. I stopped renewing these things because, once you know, I continue to practice these on a daily basis. But I'm not going to discourage you from earning a certificate. I'm not going to discourage you from earning a college degree. It's not a war between people with college degrees and people without. You'll find a lot of people out there discouraging you and saying, you don't need a college degree, you don't need a certificate. Yet they do have college degrees. I know a guy who always says you don't need a certificate, and the minute that he starts speaking, he says his name, and right after he says his name, he mentions that he has spoken in this and that, and he is part of this club, etc. But in addition to that, on his LinkedIn, after his name, he puts into parentheses a list of certificates. Why is he discouraging people from getting those same certificates? Well, I'm not going to discourage you from getting the certificates, but what I'm going to tell you instead is don't worry about the certificate. The certificate is like getting a driver's license. Everybody who knows how to drive can get a driver's license. That's not difficult. The only people who need to worry about getting a driver's license is those who don't know how to drive. You know how to drive. They give you the test, they say drive. You drive, and they give you a license. It's that simple. The IT certificate is the same thing. If you have the skill, they'll say drive. And you demonstrate that you have the skill and you have the certificate. Of course, they're not as perfect as a driving test because there's so much memorization and so much outdated things that are in those certificates. But that's a topic for another conversation, another day. But for today, should I tell you that an IT certificate is a plus? A college degree is a plus. But what you really need is hands-on experience. And that's what you get paid for. But how do you get this hands-on experience? This has been the problem forever. You can't get the job because you don't have experience. You can't get experience if you don't have the job. How do we solve this problem? And that's the problem that I have come to solve. And that's the problem that I've had, or that I had for 9 years when I started my career. And I decided that I'm going to solve this problem the best way. I'm going to build the technologies, and I'm going to give you access to them. But to do that, I need to have some type of curriculum that I follow. Something that says start from this point and continue with this, continue with that until we get to the finish line. How do I get this curriculum? I don't build the curriculum from scratch. I use the curriculums of the major certificates. And the first one that I start with is CCNA. In my opinion, anyone who's going to be a solid IT or cybersecurity professional needs to know networking. You need to know significant amount of networking. You need to be able to build a network. You need to understand how packets move from one place to another. That is not something that you can bypass. Now, how do you do that? I think there's a camera that's stuck on a loop here. I need to get it unstuck. How do you do that? How do you get this advanced networking skill? You get exposed to networking. And folks, here's the curriculum that you're going to learn here. This is the CCNA curriculum. That's what we start with on day one, right? In fact, before I get to the curriculum, let me give you a view of the all-inclusive program, what you learn in that. But you don't have to do that with me. You just have to have access to next generation technologies. And it is quite expensive to have access to all of these things. That's why I put it at your disposal and give you access to it for a small fee. Now, when you come to this program to acquire the skills, this is what you get. You spend 3 weeks learning Cisco routing and switching. And you spend 1 week delivering a project. These are the major concepts that you will be exposed to throughout these 4 weeks, the first 4 weeks. But in detail, we can see those concepts here. They came from the CCNA. Here comes the old CCNA. I really, really like the old CCNA. And here's the new CCNA. And we create from that a curriculum that's focused on the meat and potatoes. We remove the fluff. Now, on this is exactly what you need, folks. You spend 4 weeks learning advanced Cisco routing and switching. And then from these 4 weeks, you spend 1 week learning Microsoft services, because no network can be built without services. And these services here will be Active Directory, DHCP, DNS, etc., etc. 1 week. Then you're going to spend another 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, you're going to be introduced to Palo Alto. These are the concepts you're going to learn. And from those 2 weeks, 1 week to learn, 1 week for a project. That's called Project 1.1. From there, we pivot into Microsoft services, but this time it's LDAP, Certificate Authority. We go into Office 365 and Azure Active Directory and SAML. There you spend 3 weeks. And that's called Project 1.2. And then at that point, you have learned some networking. You have learned Microsoft services, really network services. You have been introduced to Palo Alto network security, and you have learned some cloud. But these are all prerequisites. Very beautiful skills for you to have if you're a person who has at least 1 year of experience. and who's looking to level up. But from this point on, we're going to transition you to the Palo Alto Advanced Concepts. There you're going to spend another 3 weeks. You see, at that point, you have spent a good 4 months. Is it 4 months? I'd say three months in this program. And you have learned networking, you have learned network services, you have learned the cloud, and you have learned advanced Palo Alto concepts. That you can build a network. You know how to build a network. You know Cisco routing and switching. You know how to engineer network services. You know how to secure the network. You know how to use the cloud and cloud authentication, cloud identity to provide identity to your users and to your administrators on this network. This is advanced stuff that we're talking about here. Someone who has just a year of experience likely doesn't know all of these things. It is at that point that we're going to invite you to specialize. Specialize in either network engineering or network security or cyber defense or cloud engineering. You're going to spend 5 weeks learning one topic. If it's network security, it's only going to be network security topics, heavy firewall, next generation firewall, etc., etc. And from that point on, after those 5 weeks of hardcore network security, you're going to now spend 8 weeks delivering a final project. All along, you're learning with an expert. It's an expert that's guiding you, teaching you all throughout this, and showing you how to be diligent and find the information on your own. But when you get to that point, you're by yourself. You no longer show up to class every day. What you do instead is you work with the project manager and you are supervised by an expert when you're delivering this final project. Folks, this is how you get hands-on. You put yourself in an environment where for 6 months you're going to get up close and personal with very advanced technologies. And you're going to have an expert to guide you. You're going to have unlimited access to this network 24/7. This is the all-inclusive package, and that's good for anyone who has at least 1 year of experience. But what about those who are entering the field? Here's what you do. If you're entering the field for the first time, you have never worked in IT before, you don't need this, folks. I say you don't need this. You don't need to learn these advanced concepts, not because you can't learn them. You can learn them, but you're not going to be able to convince anyone that you know them if you have never worked in that field before. What you need is to focus on the A+ curriculum. And that's what we're going to have this entry-level study group for, just so you can have a group of like-minded people. We are all going to be on one group chat on Microsoft Teams, where you can have access to experts and your peers as well to ask questions throughout the day and to continue to be encouraged to study every single day. The more skills you have, the better off you are. And if you are looking to get paid very well, you need to learn enough skills to get paid very well. So, folks, I think I should take some questions. There are quite a few of people watching me here. I'm going to take some questions here. If you guys have, I think I see some questions. I'm not too sure. Okay. Ask me any question that you have, guys, about those things. How do you acquire the skill? That's what we're talking about here. You get exposed to the technology, hands-on, and you do that every day. I'm going to linger here for just a couple more minutes. Does it seem like you guys have questions? But I like doing this. I like you guys joining me, and I think you should do something similar, right? And that's the environment that we're creating. We're creating a space where we come together. And for me to have built this whole thing and to be ready to show up here and be able to present online like that, it took me quite a while. For 3 years, I've been working on this. By now, I have a full studio built purposely for that, and I have cameras moving left to right. I like this camera itself. Look how it's moving. The designer who designs this whole thing says it's too much. It's too extra. I say, well, I've got to have some fun as well. I like it, and I'm gonna continue to have it. Oh, you're not seeing this camera yet, but you're gonna see it. But then I also like this camera, right? It's right in front of me and I can speak directly to the audience. I want to put this camera on, but I have never tried that. So I'm not going to play with it today. I need to be trained a little bit more. But nevertheless, folks, I'm happy about what I'm doing here. And I'm encouraged to come and do it every day. I want you to be encouraged as well to come and study every day. Put in the work. Folks, I was happy to be with you today. I pushed a lot of information. And it's time to check off. And I'll see you all again tomorrow for the executive brief. The executive brief will talk about how to prevent a ransomware attack and how to behave if your company gets hit by a ransomware. It's not the time to panic. I'm going to go in the details about how to go about protecting your environment against the ransomware, and if you fall victim, what you should do, right? The first thing you should do in the case of a ransomware attack. Thank you, folks. I'll see you all tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. Take care.